Robert Heinlein is one of my favorite authors, science fiction writer from the mid 20th century. Wrote a ton of books. I've read all but one. Uh, After about 20 of them, I knew the characters in the story before I read them, right? I knew what the major plot points of the story were likely to be. I knew what the tone of the universe would be like. I knew what this universe itself was going to kind of consist of as far as its characters and events. And if you've watched enough of my videos, I'm sure you can do the same kind of thing with me, right? Regardless of the topic, I don't address statistics or the greater good argument. I don't even give it lip service, and there's a reason for that. You want to hear people debate statistics and utilitarianism, you can get that anywhere. Bill O'Reilly, Rachel Maddow, Sean Hannity, Chris Matthews, doesn't matter. They'll have their guest on, and they'll argue back and forth for 10 minutes about, statistically speaking, what leads to the most prosperity for the most people, how much a certain class of people would benefit from a policy, and back and forth shouting at each other, and in the end, nobody's convinced. Both sides go away thinking the other side is just as crazy as when they started. The audience doesn't learn anything. Maybe you hear a couple of new statistics. Are they accurate? I don't know. Are they in context? I don't know, right? So then, but it's a waste of time. So, look, I had a teacher in high school who, tongue-in-cheek, suggested the death penalty as a solution for student tardiness. And of course, all of us students readily admitted that if death were the penalty for being late, we wouldn't be late, right? We'd come in on time. And his solution certainly would have worked, right? I mean, statistically speaking, rates of tardiness would have plummeted. The teachers would have more time to spend on teaching instead of rounding up the students. So the grades would have gone up. Students would be focused on getting in their seats, certainly. So SAT scores would have gone up. Students would have gotten to better colleges. We'd have more great things being invented, right? Statistically speaking, you could measure that, and society would have been better off. So if you're arguing from a utilitarian perspective, right, that's a great solution. But the moral argument dismantles that ridiculous idea immediately. Of course, it's absurd. The death penalty is not an appropriate response to tardiness, regardless of any possible results. So when someone says to me, well, if we raise taxes on this group of people, we could help this other group of people in this way. Well, why would I treat that argument any differently? You're talking about violating fundamental human rights. I'm not going to entertain the idea. I don't care how good it sounds on the surface. I don't care how many people it helps. You don't compromise moral principles for the sake of expediency. So I'm not saying that determining which course of action achieves the best results isn't important. Of course it is. Every valid option should be examined as closely as possible with the pros and cons weighed to ensure optimal results, but the results should not be your starting point. You should start with what's moral and move on to what works best from there. Without a moral standard acting as your foundation, you're placing human beings at the mercy of math and statistical probabilities, and we're more than that, right? We're better than that. Human beings are unique individuals who deserve respect. By compromising human rights in the name of the greater good, you're devaluing human life. I was accused this week of having an intractable standard of morality, and that's true. It's intractable, but it's not incorrect. I draw a hard line, but I draw it on firm moral principles. Look, are you comfortable living in a world where the principles that underlie the rule of law are subject to the whim of whatever society deems appropriate or whatever is predicted to work best for the current societal cause celeb? I'm not. So begin with what's right, and don't reduce the value of life to a variable in an equation.